When you think of silk, what comes to mind? Probably the smooth, luxurious, beautiful fabric, right? But what if I told you that behind every single one of those threads is this incredible story? A story of ancient secrets, really precise agriculture, and a tiny biological factory just working overtime. Well, today, we're going to unravel that story together. We're about to pull back the curtain on one of the world's most prized materials. And I'm telling you, the journey from a single leaf to a shiny piece of clothing is way more complex and honestly, just more fascinating than you could probably ever imagine. Okay, so our story, or at least the legend, kicks off about 4,000 years ago with a Chinese empress named Xiling. And for centuries, centuries, the secret of how to make silk was one of the most closely guarded secrets on the planet. It wasn't until around 555 AD that the technology was finally smuggled into Europe, and that's when the global story of silk really takes off. But here's the thing. To really get what silk is all about, we can't start with the thread. Nope, we have to go way, way back. We have to start with the food. This is where the magic really begins. It's not just sericulture. That's the raising of silkworms. It starts with something called moriculture. This is the scientific, very deliberate cultivation of mulberry plants. Why? Because without the perfect leaf, you get zero silk. It is that simple. And when I say perfect, I am not kidding. This isn't just about sticking a tree in the ground and hoping for the best. The level of precision needed is just astounding. The soil pH has to be just right, somewhere between 6.2 and 6.8. The temperature, the humidity, the hours of sunshine, it's all part of this carefully balanced recipe to grow a leaf that's nutritious enough for a silkworm. And then, of course, you've got the human element. Farmers are constantly out there pruning and training these plants, basically encouraging them to produce more leaves instead of fruit. They even harvest super early in the morning to make sure the leaves have the most moisture. It's really an art form in itself, and it's all to create the ultimate silkworm superfood. So, we've got the perfect leaf. Now let's meet the star of the show, this fascinating little creature that performs the alchemy of turning that leaf into pure, luxurious silk. All right, get ready for this number, because it's absolutely mind-blowing. In less than a month, a single silkworm larva will increase its body weight by 10,000 times. To try and put that into perspective, that's like a 7-pound newborn baby growing to the size of 2 huge elephants in just 4 weeks. All of that incredible growth is fueled by just eating mulberry leaves, nonstop. So the silkworm goes through 4 pretty distinct stages. But for our story, the larva stage is everything. This is the eating machine phase, the growth phase, and most importantly, it's the silk-producing phase. The entire purpose of this stage is just to eat enough to fuel the next 2. So where does the silk actually come from? Well, it's produced inside this biological marvel called the silk gland. I want you to picture a pair of glands that, if you stretch them all the way out, would be 4 times longer than the creature's entire body. This is the super specialized organ that turns digested mulberry leaves into liquid silk. And that liquid silk? It's basically made of 2 key proteins. First, you've got fibroin, which is about 75% of the thread. This is the strong, structural core that gives silk its famous shine. Then you've got sericin, which is this sticky, kind of gummy protein that acts like glue, binding 2 of those fibroin filaments together to make one single, strong thread. Okay, so we've got the plants and we've got the insect. Now let's bring in the people. This is where agriculture meets biology, in a practice that's been refined over thousands of years. Think of a rearing house as like a 5-star, all-inclusive resort, but it's exclusively for silkworms. Everything is controlled. The temperature, the humidity, the airflow, and above all else, hygiene. The slightest little mistake can be totally catastrophic for the entire crop. And what's wild is that the silkworm's needs change dramatically as they grow. The early stage, which is called chalky, is super delicate. The larvae are tiny, they're fragile, and they need tender, chopped up leaves and really high humidity. But later on, they just become these eating machines, gobbling up entire branches and needing way more space and constant cleaning. And that early stage is so important. Get this, the worms only eat about 6% of their total food during this time, but they achieve a staggering 400-fold increase in their body weight. A strong start is absolutely essential if you want a healthy cocoon later on. But listen, this is not an easy job, not by a long shot. The silkworms are incredibly vulnerable. Farmers are in this constant battle against all kinds of threats. You've got viral diseases like Rosari that can literally liquefy a worm's insides. Fungal diseases like muscardine can mummify them. And then you have pests like the dreaded oozy fly, which lays its eggs right on the worms. And that is why hygiene is just non-negotiable. Before every single new batch of silkworms comes in, the entire rearing house and all the equipment has to be meticulously disinfected with really potent stuff like formalin or bleaching powder. It's the only way to prevent a massive outbreak that could just wipe out an entire harvest. So you might be thinking, with all this intense labor and all this risk, why has sericulture survived and even thrived for 4,000 years? Well, it's because it's about so much more than just a luxury product. The wider impact here is immense. Sericulture is what you call an agro-based cottage industry. It doesn't require a huge investment to get started, so it's accessible, it's pretty eco-friendly, and crucially, it provides massive rural employment, especially for women, who actually make up over 60% of the workforce. Just let that number sink in for a second. In India alone, we're talking about 8.6 million people. That's more than the entire population of Switzerland. This is not some niche hobby. It's a vital economic engine for millions of families. So what that really means on the ground is that sericulture provides stable local work. It lets people earn a good living right in their own villages, which strengthens those rural economies and helps slow down the overwhelming migration to cities that are already overcrowded. And the industry supports this whole ecosystem of modern careers too. Everything from researchers in government labs developing better silkworm hybrids, to academics, to bank officers who specialize in farm loans, and even consultants who help people set up new farms. So from a perfectly cultivated leaf to a microscopic protein factory, through a super high-stakes rearing process, all the way to a global industry that supports millions. It is a journey of science, nature, and incredible human skill. So the next time you feel that smooth fabric, maybe you'll think of the tiny worm, the dedicated farmer, and the 4,000-year-old secret that's woven into every single thread.